Hey guys, what is going on, Rush here, and welcome back to another Cards and Castles video here. Today, of course, joining with me, we've got Vesaven. How you doing, my friend?
Doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, and I'm really excited for this video today because what we're doing is something a little bit different. It's not going to be a TV commentary, although it kind of also is. I'm going to be showcasing some matches to you from the Cards TV that I played today. I went on a little rank excursion, and I picked up some games on the TV for you to look at, and I figured we'd go through them, maybe check out my gameplay, see how you would sort of analyze it, how you think about it, and really just have a good time. So, I mean, you think you're up for it?
Yeah, I'm up for it, Red. Understand you're playing the zoo deck, the Druid Warlock zoo deck, and
Yeah.
we've got some great games lined up for you guys.
All right. So, with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and jump into match number one. All right, and so for our first match, we've got me taking on Ayla Rambo, a bit of a Warlock Zoo against the classic Greed School colors here, and we're going to open up the match. I think I have some fairly strong chances in this match. I mean, Vesa, well, first of all, before we get any further into the matchups, what do you feel like how my chances are going into it?
Right. Well, I think that both colors that you are running are strong versus the school deck. The Druids have the companions that are able to take out his draw engine, school,
Right.
and the Warlock also has the burn cards that can take it out. So I love both your colors.
Right. And I believe we'll see that a bit more in action later in this matchup. He'll start off pretty plain and simple with the Elvish Thief here on turn 3. I'm kind of surprised he didn't play it in turn 2. I believe he had it in hand. Yeah, he did, but he just went into turn 3 without using it. I do find that a little bit strange, but hey, whatever really works
Yeah,
for him.
he must have fallen asleep on that one because there's just no reason not to play it on turn two if you've got it.
Right. I'm going to follow with the Mana Core. I do think Mana Core is my best option here in this situation, considering it can survive the attack and actually kill off the Elvish Thief, even though it does give him the invest. Besa, what are your thoughts on the Mana Core in this situation? Like, I know people don't often think of Mana Core as being a strong card, but I mean, I'm all ears.
Right. Well, I think that Manicore is a very good card to play in this situation. There's always the chance that he could run out a global buff and then it doesn't look quite as good.
In this case, he
But
debuffs with mugging. Yeah, but go on, go on.
right, exactly. But at least he had to spend a card, to take it out. Whereas a global buff, would have stayed on the board and affected it the rest of the way through. Instead, he has to burn through a card. Overall, I like Manicore as a card. I don't think that it fits into every deck or even every beast deck, but I think that if your deck is built the right way, that it's definitely a card that can impact the game and be
Right, certainly. So, going, of course, further along, I go ahead put a second mana core into the Elvish Thief just because he mugged away my first. He does go into a Minotaur from here. He gets a little scary, he gets a little beefy. I think I just sit back and hold a wolf. Really not much that I can do in this situation with a Minotaur bearing down on me. He had the option for Dwarven Scope here. Instead, he decided to set up his School and Dragon Sword, which at this point, I start to really take notice that this is going to be a great school matchup, and I think have some options that I have. I'm just not ready to use them yet. Going into the Beastmaster and the Wolf, or yeah, Beastmaster, and then of course sacking my Wolf and Bear Hog while also creating a 4/7 Bear. I think that's a nice little synergy the Warlock Zoo has. I mean, putting a Northlands Wolf that you throw out there, and then getting into a big Beastmaster, you create things like a 4/7 Bear. Very strong. Besa, do you have any comments on that one?
yeah, like absolutely. Beastmaster is a very good card against this school deck because they don't have the burn
Right.
to actually take out your and
I'm sort of like protected in a
create.
way, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like as you pay attention to your positioning, then you can pretty much guarantee that he's going to be safe for the next.
Right. Certainly. So, of course, moving down the line here, he goes, I believe, goes for Maddie, right? I don't know if he does the double Maddie this turn. He goes
Okay, he's
Captain.
gonna go with the Southport too, and he's just trying to set up his engine at this point, and he does go with the double natty.
Yeah. So really just trying to kind of max out on the school potential that he's got going on here. I
Right,
believe.
and at this point, he just wants to draw a lot of cards.
Yeah. At this point, though, I think I get him with the really game-ending combination of the Centaur, Bestial Rage. Obviously, I've got Bear on the field, so this is going to get the 1/1 buff, and I can not only take out the Acolyte, but his big draw engine is cool. And I think this is really, you'll start to see pretty much the collapse. I think that was the big moment that ends this game.
Right, and I was wondering if you had the companion to deal with the school, and it turns out that you needed the rage too. But the way that he positioned his board allowed you to just come in.
Right.
It's on the board.
Pretty much kind of clears the way here. And I think at this point, I'm moving in more Beastmasters to kind of push and end the game here. He goes into another Southport. I don't know why he didn't attempt to smuggle in that situation, getting himself some extra spells to use.
Yeah, I think that definitely was a misplay, especially considering like he could have
Right.
to cast it.
Yeah, he had enough gold.
There's really gotcha that there's really nothing else in his hand, at that point.
Yeah, and
Uh,
that's where he
yeah,
surrenders. So that does go to me. Overall, not really too difficult. I mean, like you predicted, I think I had a stronger matchup against the school. I had, burn options for the school. I had the Centaur Companion Rampage combo, which was a really good cleanup. And overall, I think a really strong game. So, Vesa, have any words before we jump into the next one?
right. Yeah, another reason that was a great match for you is, you've got the Beastmasters, and I think that you really kind of showed off how powerful that card can be, especially against like a school
Right,
can't really back row.
certainly.
He really did a lot of work for you with Masters. You passed that game.
I'm proud of him for that. So, with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and jump into game number two and see how that one looks out for us. All right, guys. So next matchup, we've got the Red Zoo up against King Wizard and a Warlock Viking aggro, if I remember that correctly. We'll see how that match goes in. I got my perspective this time, so we'll see a couple of more options in my hand. And Vesa, how you feeling about the matchup against the aggro?
Again, even though they are running the Warlock, Beastmaster could be a really good card for you against aggro because if they get on your castle, then you get so much value from producing those 3 units that, can really take out an early push.
Well, I did pull off a cheeky witch ball. He does knock out my wolf there. Goes for a primordial flame. But I mean, you already see in my hand, I've got a lot of answers for a primordial flame early on. I think I've got all three beast smashers in hand.
Right. Yeah, and definitely the Rat King is very strong as well.
Right. I believe he gets a cheeky little lich play in here in the following turn. Yeah, he freezes off both of the rats, so that's going to guarantee that
Mm,
they die thanks to the primordial burst. And since I really don't have a turn 4 play, I just sit back with the wolf. I'm going to opt to take the damage because I really can't do anything about it. But this kind of helps me set up for Beastmaster, putting the wolf out and hopefully gaining some more stats off of that.
right. And if you guys will notice the placement of the wolf, Red put it in a spot where it is able to hit the primordial flame at any position if it's next to his castle.
It's not going to matter though because you see what I paused it on, so Witch Ball is going to come down and remove it, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. Which is a little unfortunate. It does gain you a card, but you probably really wanted that wolf to stay on board. But you'll see now that I can't read your opponent's name because it's so small, but he's down to 2 cards.
Right.
So if Beastmaster can take out this threat, then you're in pretty good shape.
Which I ended up doing actually, thanks to the draw of Bear Hog. I think Bear Hog was pretty much the thing I absolutely needed when you look at it, considering that I needed to kind of
Right.
open up a space. He did pull a smart little move here with the Primordial Flame. If he had put it somewhere like up in the top or bottom, I would have been able to hit it with all three without any sort of issue. But because he put it back here, I obviously have to pick out two and since nothing is above 4 attack on the base summon, I'd have to guarantee a bear hog to kind of move away after I hit. So I do get that, thankfully. But yeah, showing Beastmaster's power, I think, yet again.
Yeah, exactly. And it was fortunate that you did pull that bear hog and you're able to keep the Beastmaster alive. So looks like if he had a burn, he would have already used it.
Right, and I mean, listen, we all know what's coming next. Big Boy Dragon's Fire. The Fat Bard is being able to get taken out, which lowers the
Right.
Dwarven Miner and Lich, and it's just going to be fireworks from here. And yep,
Exactly. And with the one card in his hand, then if it wasn't game when you took out the flame, it's definitely game now.
right. So I'm going to go ahead. I believe this game actually goes a little bit longer than our previous one, just because this guy, I think, hopes that I draw or hopes that he draws a burn. Considering that Beastmaster is still on the board and this is still the Warlock faction he's rocking with, something like a Disintegrate or like Incinerate or Blue Firebolt can easily just wipe my entire board and put us back to square one.
Right, exactly. So you'll see that he's probably fishing for that right now, with especially with the spear strike on nothing.
Right.
Um, and he is right, I think, to continue playing through this game because, like you mentioned, if he can get that one burn card, then it's going to pretty much wipe your board, except for the blacksmith at this point.
Which is why I'm kind of also hesitant to play more Beast. You see, my hand is filled with two more Beastmasters, a Windfall Griffin that I could have easily pushed up, as well as a second Spiny. I just don't want to give him more value if he does pull that burn card, which is why, we're just kind of a little more hesitant. Which I'm not sure if you being more of a aggressive player.
Hmm.
If you have anything to comment on that, if you're willing to take the
Yeah,
risks on that.
I do. With the amount of cards in your hand, I think that I might have like just dropped the Spiny or something. Not the Windfall Griffin because that's a card you don't want to lose. And we see you do drop the Spiny this turn. So
Yeah.
but you kind of have to look at the amount of cards in your hand versus his hand and say, okay, like if he does draw that burn spell, can I afford to lose this card? And I think with Spiny, as you decided, maybe one turn later than I would have, that, that it was worth, losing that one extra card if he does draw the burn, because I think you've got enough in the back end to overcome that loss.
Yeah, so obviously, I mean, and we're gonna see here. I think we keep pushing. He does bring out a big boy Yenaroth, which kind of did scare me a bit. You never know if we already know that he's packing the Spear Strike, so at that point I got a little bit nervous. I had to throw out the Windfall Griffin at this point,
Hmm.
followed up by the Dark Bender, just in case the Windfall Griffin wasn't enough here. And I actually, thankfully, did put down the Dark Bender, considering we see a Spear Strike land on
Yeah.
the Yenaroth, and a Witch Bolt lands on the Beast Smash. So obviously that would have opened up my castle to 11 damage if I had put the Griffin behind the castle. So I'm thankful that I did take that approach. I do lose Dark
All
Bender.
right.
Okay, it's better than dying.
One thing I will comment on is I don't like your positioning of Darkbender that much because if he hit um, the lightning blade, that it would have hit your Beastmaster.
I guess
So
that's true. Yeah.
yeah, but also in retrospect, if the Darkbender wasn't in that spot, then he would have been able to hit you at 11 for face. So I think that's something to consider, but it could be that you made the right play. But that's just one thing that I saw when you set it up
Oh yeah,
was
for
that
sure.
lightning blade would have taken out your Beastmaster.
Yeah, and that would have been a whole other issue. I mean, granted, um, I tried to put the blocks in, but like you said, Lightning Blade is still a very devastating card, so I totally understand your perspective on that. I think at this point, though, moving in, I pull another Beastmaster out of this point because I lost the first one. I believe I move back some rats to take care of it, trade the bear into the Yenaroth, move the bear hog up and about. And at this point, I don't really think there's anything he can do. I'm sitting on a Flamestorm in hand as well once you get even closer to sudden death. And I think this one's pretty much wrapped up from here.
Right. And one card that we see in your hand right now is Fenrir. And that card is, to say the least, fallen out of favor
Oh, for sure.
quite a lot lately. How has your experience with Fenrir gone in this zoo deck?
To be honest, I do like it. I found it to be a useful late game beast, considering that I can go from ideally, I have Beastmaster in the 5, Windfall Griffin in the 6, and then Fenrir in the 7 gold. Kind of a nice little
Hmm.
curve there if I do manage to pull it off. But yeah, also very risky because you also have chance of Beastmaster dying, and then that follows up with the Fenrir. I get that a lot with the Warlock Zoo. When people sort of first see it, they realize I'm running both Beastmaster and Fenrir, and usually those two don't go well, hand in hand per se, because you lose Beastmaster, you just lost a 20 attack Fenrir that you built up.
Gotcha. Well, we did see it work out for you that time as Fenrir has dealt the final blow.
Yeah, and overall, another victory, and I'm feeling pretty good. So, Vesa, we've got one more match to say. What do you say we jump into that one and see how that one goes?
Let's go, Red.
All right, folks, and for our final match here, we've got myself against Saisei, a bit of a, I believe he ended up playing a Viking Crusader freeze stall. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be Mystic Wrath because I do see Rat King, Temple, signs that really point to that, but I don't really think he ended up drawing it. But anyway, we've got the match to go through, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. I start off a bit rough here. I'm not going to have a turn 2 play from this opening hand, but neither did he. So I think overall we're starting out a bit slow, but I mean slow is fine, right?
Slow is fine. It's the end results that actually really matter.
Right. And here we're gonna get a nice little interaction between Priest and the Manicore. Again, as to why I like Manicore in the deck, you're able to stop these little 3/2 bodies where normally with things like the vanilla Dwarven Miners and the 3/3 units, you would make a trade here. In this case, I'm going to survive and still keep my Manicore on the board. So I do like that little opening trade here.
Yeah, exactly. And Priest and Elvish Thief are both very, very common two drops. Honestly, some of the best two drops in the game. So that's something that you are going to come across very frequently. I will say that I do really like this play to go ahead and take out the cleric as well as the priest,
I was
and
actually just about to
obviously
ask
you
your thoughts on
sacrificed
that.
your mana core. Yeah, I really really like that play.
I figured if at first I didn't really know what kind of deck this was. So if I was a little nervous on whether or not this was sort of like a knight deck. So if I let him keep the cleric, it would have gotten big real quick.
Right, and you never know when they're gonna drop a buff or like a dragon shield or whatever you call it on that cleric and just start pounding on your castle. So I like taking out that card as quickly as possible.
Right. So I go for the Beastmaster here after setting up with the Armory. I feel like that's just my better option. I could play the Griffin, but I don't want to leave that as my only unit for him to kind of mess with. I feel like more bodies the better at this point. He does pull off a
Right,
cheeky little
and
combination here with the Vortex, so that pisses me off.
mhm. But as we were saying before, even with that play actually taking out the Beastmaster, the colors that Saisei is running aren't typically good for taking out Beastmaster. Beastmaster is a very good card against these colors generally.
Right. So I go for the Spiny here to eliminate the issue of the Wind Mage. He does put the Lich into the Wolf before hour after no before getting out the Rat King. English really helped out there. And yeah, he's just left with two rats at this point. Forgot what I do here
Yeah,
actually.
with him playing the Rat King, that solidifies it for me that he's definitely playing a variation of Mystic Rats, and this Windfall Griffin is already very big.
Yeah, I put the wolf buff into it. I've got the armory. He's got the swordsman, but thankfully I've got the fear in hand. So this is going to be a nice little
Right,
interaction. We push the rat away, and then we get to kill off the swordsman. I wish I had a bestial rage to kind of take out the temple as well, but my hand doesn't really let me. And I get the
right.
Murdoch.
And Swordsman is another card that I like to take off the board as absolutely quickly as possible.
Right. I just paused it because I really want you to, I want to get your thoughts on this absolutely enraging play from the opponent here. He pulls off Sheep to the Slaughter, followed by the Lightning Blade. So I do lose Mordok and Griffin to a Lightning Rat. Ah,
Yeah. Anytime that I lose my Murdoch without activating his ability once, it just kills me inside.
I do have a
Uh,
second one though.
fortunately, fortunately, you've got the follow up play exactly, and
He opens with a Yenaroth.
We are going to see the Yenneroth. I'm expecting a Fear.
Yep. I do pull off the Fear. Fear's going to push it back. I believe I get Darkbender out as well, just because I want to get it out of my hand and I want to get it introduced to the board as fast as possible.
Right. Now, about the positioning on the Darkbender, um, would you consider putting it behind the Murdoch in this situation, seeing as how he doesn't have the reach to get the Murdoch to potentially like chain into the rest of your buildings?
I kind of considered it, but with the way this guy was playing things like Sheep and Vortex very nonchalantly, I kind of was nervous that, something like a Sheep to the Slaughter could instantly mess up my position again.
Right.
Unfortunately, it doesn't matter really what position I put it in this case, considering that Freezing Pillar hits the board. I At this point, judging from the hand I have now, I don't really have a clear out to it, especially with that Yenneroth still bearing down on me. I'm a little nervous at this point. Thankfully, the follow-up play is decent enough where I can make a bounce back here, as you'll see in a moment. I draw the third
Right.
Mordock
And
after all.
that was a good draw for sure. I would say that I think that you positioned Darkbender correctly based on what your opponent has shown you.
Right, and of course I get the Wraith, so that's also a thankful pull. I push the Yenneroth away. He introduces Arbiter to the board just to get rid of my Armory, which thereby
Yeah.
kills my Wraith, unfortunately. And then I think he does a little
Right.
cheeky little lightning stuff here, just by the way he can summon from Mordock, he coins to a Priest, does a little bit of lightning shenanigans, but ultimately doesn't really do anything in this case for him.
Yeah, because that's if that would have taken out the bottom Murdoch, that would have been a much better play. But at this position, he's just staring down two Murdochs, and he has one card in his hand, and things are not looking good for
And he knows
Saisei
what
here.
the Banshee just gave me, obviously. Drake Dance in this scenario is absolutely killer for him.
Right.
So I believe I'm going to go ahead, Drake Dance, push Darkbender up to get a little bit of extra damage. I do sacrifice the weaker Mordock just to kill off instead of disintegrating, just to start getting some units on the board, start getting a little bit of pressure, and start hitting the castle a bit here, because I already know he used the Arbiter prematurely.
Right. And any time that you can get Murdoch hitting directly on a castle, then, you know, even if you have to make a little bit of a sacrifice to do so, it's usually worth it because now he's going to have to spawn more units most likely in order to kill off the Murdoch, and with the number of cards in his hand, there's just no coming back from your board position currently, even with the temple on board.
Right, and at this point, I've got things like the Darkbender and the Centaur in hand, which, of course, I didn't get to use, but that was pretty much the writing on the wall anyway, and we do walk away
Yeah, he
competitively
knew.
against Freeze.
Yeah, he knew. And man, watching all three of these videos, I might have to build a red zoo. That was looking pretty good, man.
Oh, I certainly appreciate it. Always nice to kind of put some inspiration out into folks. But with that being said, guys, I think it's just about time we move out to close this video. All right, folks. With that being said, I think this video ended up being a bit of a success in my opinion. Vesa, how you feeling?
Yeah, I'm still feeling great.
Yeah, and overall, we hope you guys enjoyed these decks. Certainly some games, and hopefully we inspire you to start making your own Red Zoo deck, despite that I've shown this on the channel already multiple times. Um,
Yeah, you're looking pretty good there, Red.
I was, and I'm certainly glad to see that you agree. But with that being said, guys, we are of course going to close this out. So if you guys haven't already done so, be sure to leave your comments down below. If you guys want to talk about anything, of course, or mention anything, of course, comment section is always open. While you're down there, if you haven't done so already, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Show your support the channel, help us grow by clicking the subscribe button, and no additional cost to you. Vaseven, you got any last word before I close it out?
Man, that was just those were really good games, and I had a lot of fun doing it.
All right, so that's been Vesaven, and for him and for me, until next time, guys, stay gaming.